Fears growing over a possible airline strike ahead of the busy holiday travel season. Thanksgiving just around the corner. The American Airline Pilots Union says its board of directors rejected a pay hike proposal for pilots. Well, the draft agreement offered this, a 19% pay hike for over 2 years for roughly 15,000 American Airlines pilots. But then Delta Airline pilots also recently voting to authorize a strike in order to secure new contract negotiations. Delta, however, saying the authorization vote will not affect its operations. We'll watch for that. And United Airlines pilots also turning down a deal earlier this week that would have included a roughly 15% pay raise for pilots. So we're bringing on now Joshua Yoder. He's a pilot for a major U.S. commercial airline. Joshua, thanks so much for coming on to National Report, and we appreciate that. So talk to us about this. There are a lot of questions I have, or a few for you, but the first one, I'll start with this. What do commercial airline pilots want?
Well, what we want is better pay and better schedules, along with also some respect from our companies. Let's not forget that only a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, we were being threatened with termination. And then you combine that with terrible pay and terrible schedules. It's time for a change, and we're all standing up. As you see in the case of Delta, 96% of the pilots voted, and out of those 96% participation, 99% of them voted to strike. So you can see that dissatisfaction is at an all-time high.
Is it just about the pay? I know your schedule is one of the sticking points as well, right?
Yeah. Schedules are atrocious these days, actually. You know, you bid for a 4-day trip, and sometimes you get extended into a 5th day. You don't get home when you're supposed to. We don't have the same amount of time with our families anymore. We're working record amounts of overtime. And it's time for a change. You know, obviously we've been facing a pilot shortage. We knew that this was coming from 2020 to 2030, and unfortunately, the airlines have not appropriately prepared for this. And now you're starting to see the fallout.
So here we are today, where you have American, Delta, United, all essentially threatening to strike here. Now I wanted to ask this question: do you think a strike will actually happen?
I believe the strikes will happen if the companies don't come to the negotiating table and actually give us what we're demanding.
How would that affect travelers, passengers?
It could be absolutely catastrophic for the travel season. So a strike is not necessarily imminent. There is a cooling off period. I believe it's 30 days. So there is certainly time for negotiations here. But I think what pilot groups are sending to the companies, the message that's being sent is that we're actually serious about essentially the threat of striking. Like that's not something that's a far-fetched idea. It's something that will happen should negotiations go south.
Do you think this could happen before? If it does happen, would that happen before Thanksgiving or during the holidays?
Most likely not before Thanksgiving, but you could certainly see something in December, I believe.
Good to know. Okay. I wanted to turn to the pilot shortage, if I can. Some in Congress want to raise, because you mentioned this, some in Congress wanted to raise the mandatory pilot retirement age a couple of years, 65 to 67 years old, and reduce the number of flight hours required before a pilot could be certified. Bottom line is Congress trying to get, kind of shorten, I guess, if you will, the length to get more pilots out there, and widen it to get more pilots out there, if you will. Talk to me about that. Do you agree with that? What else can be done to attract more to your industry?
Well, what's happening right now, as far as raising the retirement age, that's a temporary Band-Aid on a much larger problem. In order to attract more pilots to the industry, the airlines need to make the industry more, the career path actually of pilots more attractive. As far as lowering the requirements to become a pilot, I don't believe that it's a good idea to trade safety and experience in order to attract new blood to the industry. I think that what the airlines really need to do is to make the career more attractive. 20, 30 years ago, this career, it paid a lot more money, had more time off. And it's time that the airlines catch up. If they want to attract talent, it's just like any other business. Make it a more attractive career.
For someone that's not in your industry and is not in aviation or in any facet of it, and sitting at home watching right now, they may say that, hey, look, you've got not one but 3 major airlines threatening to strike. They seem to all agree on the same thing. They need better pay, better hours, et cetera. So someone should come to an agreement, because a strike with these three major airlines would be a big deal, would be catastrophic in your words. Would they be correct on that? Should this be a sure thing, a done deal, when you know that you have three major airlines threatening to strike?
All we're asking for from our management is to come to the negotiating table in good faith. That's what we haven't had over the years, and that's all that we're asking for. We're asking to be treated humanely, to be paid, an appropriate wage, and not to be working constantly and have some time at home with our families. I think what we're asking for is very reasonable. And unfortunately, the companies historically, they often cause conflicts with the pilots and the flight attendants. And I think it's time for them to come to the negotiating table. If they don't do this, that there's going to be major pushback. And I think this time, these issues are not new. And all we're asking for is reasonable measures at this point.
All right, that is a pilot for a major U.S. airline there, Joshua Yoder, joining us live. Best to you, Josh. Keep us posted on this. Clearly, we need you to fly, and so hopefully something will get figured out for the better of you, your family, but also the passengers here at home and around the area. Josh, thanks. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the truth. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let me decide.
Newsmax.
Real news
For real people.